Hello and welcome to a video. Yeah, it's definitely a video. I'm recording the audio and the video. It's a video. This is a weird one to begin. I don't know where to start with this one, but it is a video response. This is like the throwback to the old days of YouTube, in which you could do video responses kind of in the system. You could like attach your video underneath someone else's, and it was a really cool way, especially in the movie community, to kind of throw ideas and thoughts and opinions on films back and forth, and they swiftly deleted it. So obviously I can just call this a video response and it serves the same purpose, but to actually attach the video to someone else's was a really cool way of just integrating that kind of community feel. And again, they just, destroyed that for some strange reason. But there you go. I think that was the beginning of the rise of, is it Google Plus? Is that what they called it? Like that kind of weird social media wannabe platform that they tried to throw at YouTube, and it just failed soundly, I think. Anyway, so this is a response to both Nathan Jones and the Movie Vault, who did a similar video, or similar videos, plural, about this idea, which is a very cool one. I thought it was a unique and interesting topic for movie fans, and especially movie fans like me who are big into lists. I'm a list nerd when it comes to films, and this one is a pretty cool one. It is a favorite film for every year of my life. So we have 32 films to get through. I was really pleased to see that I own pretty much all of them on Blu-ray, so that was kind of a cool thing. So I can kind of show you the cover art rather arbitrarily, and then we'll just run through. Now I will say, this was incredibly difficult for a lot of reasons, and really interesting as well. Again, I get into this stuff and I'm really interested in lists, and I'm very much a geek when it comes to lists and stats about films and stuff. And my Letterboxd account was kind of vital in going through the years and seeing what I'd watched, what I like and what I don't like, and what would make a potential favorite film of that year. And I was initially going to do this video as I do like a top 3 for every year, because it was just so hard to nail it down to one. But I realized I'd be here for so long. I mean, 32 films, if I give each film a minute, we can get out of here in under 35 minutes. I know for a fact that isn't going to happen. And I don't really have the time to be doing a massive, like, 2-hour long video, which I probably could do if we were doing a top 3 for every year. But I made like a short list, like ranked in order for every year. And it was really interesting because some years was like 3 films made the short list. Some years, 5 films made the shortlist. A few years, there was like 7, 8, even like 11 films on the shortlist. And one year, which I'll point out when we get to it, only had 1. That was it. Only 1 film I could even call a favorite. So that was interesting. It was just really intriguing to see the quality of the films in relation to my tastes, and how many I would say, is one of my favorites. But let's get right into it and start with the year of my birth, 1992. No, it's a little bit earlier than that. 1990, no, not 90, not 90, 80. Yeah, 80s kid all the way. 1988, we'll start with Beetlejuice. I won't say it 2 more times. But Beetlejuice is kind of a staple film from my childhood. I grew up loving this film. My mum said I was kind of scared shitless by it, but loved it at the same time. And that seems to ring true, because there's a kind of haunting, eerie quality about some of the things in this film. I've done a video on this recently if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, and seeing it in 4K recently was just like, oh, this film is beautiful. It's so full of imagination and horror and comedy. It's just such a fun film. I absolutely love it. Oh, and I was going to say, actually, because I just mentioned the short list that I came up with, I would say that at the end of the video, I'll run down all the films that didn't make it. And I won't give you the ranked in order or anything like that. I'll just rattle off all the films, because there might be a few people out there who think, wow, you didn't pick that film for that year. So stick around till the end, and I'll give you the rapid fire, all the ones that didn't make the cut. Moving forward to 1988, this is not a staple film from my childhood, but it was a staple film of my teenage years. And it was another film that my mum introduced me to, actually. So Beetlejuice and the Burbs, they feel very connected to the Luke and Sylvia cinematic universe, where my mum introduced me to a certain number of films that I feel so closely linked to. Another one would be Aliens. So if I was 34 and not 32, then Aliens would 100% be in that 1986 spot. But this is the Burbs from 1989, Joe Dante. I love this film so much. This is one I can watch again and again. It was just it was just one of those random films my mum threw on and said, you really like this film, it's really great. And I just fell in love with it. And this is one of my favorite Blu-rays. The transfer looks gorgeous, but it's just such a fun movie. Like, it puts a smile on my face just thinking about it. I absolutely love The Burbs. So I'm not going to go into like the plot or anything. If you've seen it, you've seen it. If you haven't, The Burbs, Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher, Rick Ducommun, who's like a really underrated comedic actor who didn't really seem to really get big leading roles as he did in The Burbs. I just saw him recently in Die Hard popping up. He's got bit parts in all these different films. Groundhog Day is one of them. But yeah, so there's him, there's Bruce Dern. I mean, it's just an amazing cast and so much fun. Moving ahead to 1990, this is another film that was a staple of my childhood, and it probably shouldn't have been. Total Recall. It says in the back there, get ready for a surprise. It really should say, get your ass to Mars, because, you can see my camera there, and the lights peek behind the curtain. But yeah, I revisited this maybe a week ago. A little bit disappointed with the 4K transfer, I have to say. There's some real bad compression there. The bitrate drops so low, it's like criminal. Otherwise, it looked great, but it was nice to revisit the film, which is just wall-to-wall action, fun, endlessly quotable, and a really cool science fiction story. I absolutely adore this film, and I think I grew up in it like when I was 8, 9, 10, something ridiculously too young. Something along that kind of timeline. Yeah, it's just one of those films I just look back on now and think, holy shit, I really shouldn't have been watching that. Moving ahead to 1991, we have Terminator 2. This is a film that I have talked about so much, and I'm almost sick to death of talking about it. But in a way, I almost want to talk about it even more, because for you guys, I haven't released my videos on Terminator 2 yet, but for me personally, I've already made a video, or videos plural, talking about this film for well over an hour and a half. So you'll see that at some point in 2021, but for now, Terminator 2, it's a fucking classic. I mean, what more do you really want? I just, tonight, watched Terminator 3. Yeah, I still like that film. It's not a bad film, but man, how it pales in comparison to this is really something. But yeah, Terminator 2 is just a film that endlessly entertains and hits you on a deeper level. I think there's just something really special about Terminator 2, and I love it. It's such a great film. Moving ahead to 1992, we have one of my all-time favorite films. I mean, I some of these I wouldn't call all-time favorites. Some of them I would. So it's kind of dependent, because obviously my tastes range far more beyond like my lifespan, like to like the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 20s, 1910s. There's lots of films from many different genres and years and decades that I love and would count in my favorites. But yeah, but this is my favorite animated film of all time, without a question, without a doubt. You know what it is if you followed me for any length of time. It is Porco Rosso from Studio Ghibli, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Just a wonderful film. It's another one like The Burbs that I can put on and just enjoy every single frame and just have a smile on my face. Well, not really, because you don't really sit there and have a smile on your face when you're enjoying something, but you have the internal smile on your face, and this is just a beautiful, funny, loose, fluid, kind of just visually stunning film. Deceptively visually stunning, I think. Just some of the animation in the kind of the air combat scenes is just so fluid and just incredible. Porco Rosso, absolutely my favorite film of that year, but it wasn't one that I saw until I was like in my 20s. I saw a bit of it when I was a kid, which is a whole other story, which I've mentioned before. But yes, it's intriguing to see which ones make the cut that I saw, around the time of its release or much later. And obviously in the early years, it was kind of tricky for me to see them in the year that they were released. So Beetlejuice I didn't see until way into the 90s. Same with The Burbs I saw when I was like 17, I think. It was like 2005 or 2004. So I was about 16 when I first saw The Burbs. Total Recall, so again, once the years and I get older in this list, then it's films that I saw as and when they came out. I don't remember when I first saw this one, but from 1993, and 1993 was a tough year. Holy shit, was it a tough year. And there are many films I love from 1993, but the one that has my heart more than any of the other ones is Groundhog Day. I watch it every year at Christmas Eve when I'm wrapping presents, which just randomly became a tradition. And this year's Christmas Eve is going to be really shit, I think. So I'm hoping this will raise spirits a little bit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I love this film so much. It's funny. It has a great concept to it, and people have been playing with this concept over and over again since this film came out. None have done it as well as this one, and it's one of those kind of zany Bill Murray comedies that actually has a lot of heart to it, a great message to it. And again, speaking of things that are deceptive, I think that his performance and character arc in this are deceptively brilliant, and I love Andy McDowell in this film. It's just one of my all-time favorites. I'm not saying it's a Christmas movie, but Christmas Eve for some reason just became the time, because what I do is I put the film on, I start wrapping presents, and then if I'm still not done wrapping presents, I just put the movie on again. It's kind of a fun little... Anyway, 1994, another ridiculously tough year. Holy fuck. And I had to go with this one. It's not the best one of my shortlist, but it's the one that, again, I'm thinking more like if I could only pick one, that kind of thing. It's The Lion King. It just holds up. It has such a power to it, a beauty to it. And anyone who's kind of like looks down on the film because of the whole Kimba the White Lion thing, I recommend you give even just a glancing look at Your Movie Sucks' video on this. He talks about the whole Kimba the White Lion controversy and how it doesn't really have as much water as people seem to think it does, because they just see a little YouTube video, which is something I saw and thought, oh wow, it's a shame that they really stole a lot with this movie, and they kind of didn't, and it's a warped narrative. But that's a whole other conversation. But the film itself, it's well, maybe it isn't. Maybe it is something I should mention, because we revisited this last year and did the review for it for the Epic Film Challenge 2, the 1001 Movies series, and we then watched the Kimba the White Lion comparison, and it kind of took the edge off Connie's enjoyment of the film, and for me it kind of ripped some of the luster away as well. I was like, oh, it's a shame. But then I saw this video that Your Movie Sucks had made, and I realized how a lot of that has been twisted, and this film is nowhere near the ripoff that people would have you believe. But anyway, even if it had been, I still think that the work that goes on in this film, the animation, the art direction, the music, the characters, it's an all-timer. And I think that the scene at the end, I hate how the disc is like rattling, it's like really distracting me. Anyway, Lion King, it's great. And I would say that the scene at the end when Simba is ascending Pride Rock is one of my favorite movie moments. Just the build-up and the camera angles. It's just such a brilliantly constructed scene. I actually did a recent thing on Twitter, which was, I think, top 5 or top 10 moments in animation. And I really loved compiling. That could make a whole video, I think. But 2 from Lion King and Porco Rosso were definitely in my list. Now, moving forward to 1995, this is a film I first saw in 2009 on YouTube in, I think, 10 or 12 different segments, because someone put like the film up 10 minutes at a time. And I was using a little dongle that you apply with a USB cord to my laptop, and I could buy, like, for £10, I could buy like a gigabyte of data. So I was just using up my whole £10, which I would normally, stretch out for a week or two just using instant messaging. I just used all up on this film because I was just so sucked into it. And Connie told me about it, she introduced me to it, and the film is Before Sunrise, starring Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, the first of the Before trilogy, the most idealistic and romantic of the 3 films. And this is simply a story about 2 people who meet in a foreign location. There's a French woman going back to Paris, there's an American who's traveling through Europe, and they meet on a train, they get off in Vienna, and they spend a day and a night together just walking around the city of Vienna, just talking and kind of very obviously, but also kind of very subtly flirting with each other. And it's just a beautiful film. I think that I'm a big fan of romance movies, and that one is probably my favorite in terms of just that kind of picturesque, early 20s, in the prime of your youth, just romanticism. And it's kind of overly romanticized, but that's kind of the way that I think young people, or certain young people, view romance and attractions to the opposite sex. 1995 is... I love this film. This is just another one that, just thinking about it, puts a smile on my face. It's just such a fun movie. Bottle Rocket from Wes Anderson, one of my favorite directors. I don't think Owen Wilson has maybe ever been as good as he is here as Dignan. I just think he's so fucking funny. It's just, it just sets off Wes Anderson's career so perfectly. You know, it's the offbeat humor, which is definitely informed by wacky movies like Harold and Maude and Buckaroo Banzai. You know, there's a lot of them that kind of have this weird, just off the cuff, strangely off key humor, and Wes Anderson totally kind of fits in that mold. And it's just a weird, I don't know. I'm just thinking of scenes, and it's making me laugh. I love the film so much. It's just a super enjoyable movie. I'm trying to think of a quote that I can throw in there. Probably towards the end when Owen Wilson's like, "They'll never catch me, man, because I'm fucking innocent," which maybe works better within the context of the entire scene and knowing who the character is and all that stuff. But yeah, just I love Bottle Rocket. It's just brilliant. 1997 now. This is the token choice, I guess, for 1997. It's a film I recently revisited and fell in love with in a whole different dimension almost. I've always loved it. This is that. Okay, so this is probably the first film in the list that I actually saw when it came out in the cinema. Yeah, definitely, for sure. And it is Titanic. So we have like an hour-long review of this coming your way, probably sometime in 2021. It's all filmed and edited and ready to go. I just need to make and edit like 20 more episodes of the Epic Film Challenge 2 before we get to this one. So yeah, so there's a lot to say about this film in future videos. So I'm not going to say much here, but rewatching this maybe a month or two ago is probably the most I've ever enjoyed it and the most I've been moved by it. So I'm enjoying getting older and revisiting films and getting like more attached to them and more affected by them for some strange reason. I guess it just is age at this point, I'm assuming. Moving forward to 1998, we have another Wes Anderson film, Rushmore. This is a very special Blu-ray to me. Robbie Webster sent me this 8 years ago. That's just that's a nice memory for me in terms of YouTube and our friendship. But Rushmore is, what a film. You know, I mean, it's like 90 minutes, 93 minutes. Bill Murray's great, you know, I forget the woman's name. Olivia Williams is great, and then of course we have Jason Schwartzman as Max Fisher, just the kid who does everything. And it's just this Renaissance kid, and it's just it's the perfect Wes Anderson film, and it's just so uniquely itself, which is very rare. Again, it cherry picks stuff from, like, you know, again, Harold and Maude, the kind of humor that Wes Anderson adopted and kind of made his own at the same time. He's obviously very influenced by the French New Wave, but a new style then emerges from the things that he's been informed by. And I think Rushmore is really, you know, every time a new Wes Anderson film comes out, we say, oh, he's finally done it, he's gone full Wes Anderson, you know, and it really does seem the case with every new movie he releases. But I still think his most Wes Anderson-y film is Rushmore, because it's perfectly distilled down to something special. Like, it's a perfect film in my opinion. Now, moving forward to 1999, we have The Matrix. Yeah, I don't own this film. I used to have it on Blu-ray at one point. I think I got it like from a second-hand shop from Cardiff, and then sold it on. I wanted to get the box set, never did. There's a 4K box set out now. Still haven't bought it. You know, I love The Matrix, but yeah, this is the only one I can't pick up. No, there's another one I can't pick up and show you because it's a 2020 movie. But yeah, The Matrix. Nice cover. It's, you know, it's an action classic. It takes me back to the late 90s, like, with such vividness. Like, it's something about The Matrix just captures that late 90s moving into the 2000s, the emergence of new technology. And, you know, I remember when the DVD players were first coming out, The Matrix was like one of the first big titles that was being shown in all the adverts and that people were buying when they were buying DVD players for the first time. You know, this is a whole other world of quality. And then, of course, the way that The Matrix deals with technology and philosophy at times, which they leaned into a lot more heavily with the two sequels. But, you know, The Matrix, every time I watch it, I do think, oh shit, I forgot how great this film is. You know, it's and I haven't seen it for a few years, so maybe my opinion would change, and I definitely look forward to at some point getting the 4K and revisiting it, but I don't feel like that anytime soon. But 1999 was a pretty big year for films, and The Matrix for me, I think, would quite easily be my favorite of the bunch. Moving forward to 2000, we have Battle Royale by Kenji Fukasaku. If I even got anywhere near close to pronouncing that correctly. So this is one of those films I first heard about, and it sounded awesome. I think this is a great movie for teenagers because it's kind of violent and bloody, and it's kids killing each other, and then once you become a bit older, you don't quite get as excited by that in terms of like, oh, this is like a really dark movie, but it is a brilliant concept. And the Hunger Games obviously took elements from this quite heavily, in terms of the books and the movies, but there's a rawness to the concept here that I haven't seen this film in like I think 8 years. The last time I watched it was during my first ever 24-hour movie marathon, so I need to get back to this one at some point. And I'm not sure if there's even like a new Blu-ray or a new transfer or whatever, but this is just it's a really dark movie, but it's a really entertaining one. And it's just funny to me now how like video games are now all about the battle royale concept, and it all kind of comes from this, and you kind of forget that a little bit, unless there is even something that's before this that they were taking off of. I really don't know, but this is one I need to revisit. But this is the one that really stood out to me from 2000. I think is one I will go back to again and again. But I like leaving certain movies like that one, quite a few years before I revisit them, to the point where I can kind of almost feel like it's a new movie again, and I enjoy that feeling when I'm familiar with something. It's a favorite film of mine, but I don't know it inside out. I don't know every detail, every frame, and there are shots where I'm like, oh, I don't remember this. There are images that you very vividly remember from that film, for sure, but the whole picture is not quite as clear in my memory, and I enjoy that feeling. Moving forward to 2001, and I think this is where, I'm now getting into the point where I'm seeing every film as and when they come out, for sure. For the most part, pretty much. Well, some of them. Anyway, but that's just a whole other topic. So this one is another tricky one, but also it's fairly easy at the same time. For me, it's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. This is one of my all-time favorite films. It's the best Lord of the Rings film, without question, for me. My favorite, by extension of that. And the one I've watched the most, the one I love the most. It's about that adventure, that feeling of going off and doing something. And I don't feel like the trilogy ever got as good as this movie. It got bigger and epica. Wow, I'll leave that in for, you guessed it, free. It got bigger and more epic and grander in scale. But I just think that it's a perfect fantasy film. It's a perfect adventure film, and you never quite get the same feeling with the other two, which is obviously by nature of the plot and splitting everyone up. And I enjoy that, and I understand that, and it makes things more difficult for the characters, and that's what makes it such a great story. But I just enjoy the comfort of this first one, the discovery, Rivendell, and the Lothlorien, and the Mines of Moria, and there's just such a wonderful exploration in this film, and the characters are so perfect and brilliantly cast. I could go on and on about the Lord of the Rings films, and these just got a 4K release, which I'm waiting on for the moment. But I love The Fellowship of the Ring. 2002, this was huge when it came out. This felt like this was the film of 2002, even though you had Chamber of Secrets and the Two Towers and the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter franchises going on, but this one was like the one that emerged that really, I think, changed the game as far as superhero movies are concerned. And I think X-Men really started to do that. I think Blade had a big part to play too in 1998, but Blade, X-Men, and then Spider-Man came along in 2002, and I really feel like it just set off this chain reaction that slowly started trickling down with like Daredevil and Elektra and the Fantastic Four movies, and then finally someone kind of cracked the formula just a few years later, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe was born. But I really think that these films, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, are special as far as the superhero genre is concerned with films, and special to me because I just adored this film growing up. This is another one I haven't seen in a very, very long time, but it's just, this is one that does fit very clearly in my mind, and I just think Tobey Maguire is so great. Kirsten Dunst is kind of perfectly cast, even Willem Dafoe, and the guy who plays Uncle Ben, I know his name, but it must be here somewhere, right? Cliff Robertson, just so perfect as Uncle Ben, and even Rosemary Harris as Aunt May. Great cast. It's just so the score by Danny Elfman. Oh, you look at a score from Batman from Danny Elfman, and then this one, like, it's so, they're polar opposites, but they just have like a signature sound to them that just, I don't know, there's just something special about about this film and about even the second one. I think the second one in particular is fantastic. And the third one, maybe not so much. And now we're faced with the potential of seeing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man again in the upcoming Tom Holland sequel, which is interesting to say the least. Anyway, moving forward, I can already feel myself getting way too much into detail with some of these films, so I'll try and get quicker. 2003, we have Kill Bill Volume 1. Love these films. I had a strange experience with this. We rewatched this maybe 2 months ago, and it depressed me. I got so sad. Like, I was genuinely, like, upset by the film. And it wasn't the film. It was the feeling that it gave me. I don't know, it reminded me of, what it felt like to be 15, I suppose, and made me think of that year very clearly. But there's also a lot of things about this that I relate to Connie in particular. I don't know what it was. There's just this weird kind of nostalgia that was like just gripping at my heart and was like making me really sad. I don't know what it was. I love the film. It's fantastic. And I love the second film too. I know there's a bit of, not controversy, but I know there's a bit of, derision. Yeah, derision, level towards that film where it's like people say, wow, it's all talking. They have all the action in the first film, all talking in the second film. But, it builds up to such an incredible finale, which is just, Beatrix Kiddo and Bill sat in a room talking for like 20-30 minutes, and it's riveting. And I almost feel like that's kind of the Tarantino showcase film as far as dialogue is concerned, because there's very little action in that film and it's all story, and I really enjoy that. But anyway, Kill Bill Volume 1, love it. Such a brilliant mashup. It just feels like Tarantino had been influenced and has been influenced by so many things and continues to be. But Kill Bill feels like okay, let's just take the training wheels off here. Let me just like put everything I love into this film, like Western influence, samurai influence, anime films, and kung fu movie. Like, just keeps going like that, because again, kung fu and samurai movie is very different, but he's blending all these things together, and it just makes this really unique and fascinating and exciting and emotional for some reason film. 2004, with great regret, I have to apologize to Edgar Wright and Shaun of the Dead, which is one of my favorite films and one of the key cinema-going experiences of my life. I can't not put Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind in the 2004 spot. This is another one of my all-time favorite films. I vividly remember going to see this the day I left school, and it had such an impression on me. I was like, I've told the story before, but for the benefit of new viewers, I felt like I'd been in a relationship with Kate Winslet's character Clementine, and it took me like 2 weeks to get over it, as if I'd gone through a breakup. Like, it was just, I felt so connected to that character of Joel and that story, and it was just, it just grabbed me in such a strange way. And then every time I revisit it, it's like, Jesus Christ, this film's great. It's a beautiful film, it's a heartbreaking film, and such a vivid and imaginative story in terms of the way that it's portrayed visually. Like, there's just Michel Gondry is just a genius, and it's like another one I'd call probably a perfect film. Now, this one is the kind of the 1 year of the whole of my life where there's only one film that I could even call a favorite. Like, there was nothing else. I was going through the list and telling Connie about it, and she's like, "There's nothing else from 2005? I'm like, nothing. Nothing else came to mind. I looked through the films that had been released in 2005. There's just nothing. It just seemed like a weak year, So if you have any favorite films in 2005 in particular, let me know. But the one I picked was Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I did go to see this in the cinema. I had mixed feelings on it, and I still do. And the more I watch it, the more I think, it's a pretty great film at times, It has the pitfalls that all of the prequels have, but there's something pretty impactful. And that's another reason I don't watch it all that often, is because it is such a downer of an ending. It's like a really heartbreaking, film when you come down to the last 20 minutes. And I just have I have the box set. I have the film twice on Blu-ray with the two different Complete Saga and Skywalker Saga box sets. But all I can hold in front of you for the purposes of this video is this dirty, disgusting, standard definition, thin case DVD copy. Ugh. Moving on with 2006. This is a film I only saw a couple of years ago, so yeah, there are a few that I didn't see immediately, but this is like quite an obscure movie, but I love this film. This is like a new favorite, and it is Kamome Diner, or Seagull Diner, or Kamome Shokudo. So this is a Japanese film that was made in Finland, by the Japanese director Naoko Ogigami, and I love her films. I love her filmography. I've done a whole series of reviews on all of her films with Daisuke Beppu, and this one is one of my favorites. And for 2006, it really stands out. This is just about a woman, a Japanese woman, who moves to Finland to open her own little diner, and she has no business. And then she meets another Japanese woman who's in Finland, and she helps her out. And then they meet another Japanese woman who's kind of stranded in Finland, and they all help each other out. And it's just about nice people being friendly and making food and drinking coffee. That's the whole movie, and it's fucking fantastic, and I love it dearly. So, Kamome Diner. 2007, we have a number of films that could have made the cut, and another one was actually the next film from Naoko Ogigami, which is Glasses. But I went with this one because this is one that just I continue to love every time I revisit it, and it's one that gets quite maligned by people. I don't know why. I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of his best films. Don't tell anyone that, though. Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino. I vividly remember watching this for the first time on New Year's Day 2009, I think it was. Yeah, or maybe 2010. My best friend at the time showed me this and Planet Terror as part of the Grindhouse project, but this one just, oof. This is just, I love it. I absolutely love it. And spoilers, but the way that this film sets up a whole cast of characters and then halfway through the movie fucking kills them all brutally, and then we start over again with a new host of characters who are even more interesting than the previous set, is just a masterstroke. And obviously it's Tarantino appealing to the sensibilities of B movies and lower than B movies, Z movies and kind of grindhouse pictures. There's Kurt Russell kind of giving an incredibly charismatic performance. He is just brilliant in the film. It's just great. You got Rosario Dawson, you got Zoe Bell. The cast is just so good in terms of all the people that he meets and interacts with, and it's just it all ends in this one of the best car chases ever. I think it's just brilliant. Love that film. 2008. This one was even more tough because 2008 was the first year that I bought a card for the cinema to go as much as I wanted, an unlimited card. And so I went a lot in 2008 and saw a lot of films. And it pained me not to include Twilight in this video, but unfortunately there was another film that came out that just about beat Twilight for me. And it was from a little-known director called Christopher Nolan, and the film is called The Dark Knight. It's the token pick for 2008. It's the token pick for Nolan fanboys. It's just great. What more do you really need to say about The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger's performance? There's nothing you can say about it at this point. It is what it is. It's unforgettable. It's an incredible film, and it's my 2008 pick because, of course, it is. 2009, however, you wouldn't find many people picking this movie for their favorite film in 2009. And you will be hearing a lot about this next year as well. It is James Cameron's Avatar. So that's the third Cameron film to appear throughout this list so far. Well, there's nothing else, is there? He's done nothing else since Avatar, but you know what I mean. Avatar, I'm not going to say anything. I love this film. I watched it again about a month ago. Have never loved it more. I think it's fantastic. And I have nice memories associated to when it came out. Seeing it with Connie, it was the first film we saw together in the cinema. But beyond that, it's just an awesome film. I absolutely love it. But, fear not, because the controversy is about to continue. Because in a year in which Christopher Nolan's Inception came out, I'm picking a film that isn't Christopher Nolan's Inception for 2010. I was telling Connie my list. We were lying in bed and I was reading the list to her, and got to 2010, she's like, Inception. And I'm like, no, I didn't quite pick Inception. And I told her what I picked, and she just said, go away. Fuck off. And she's like, nothing beats the original. And I'm like, I know, but I love this one. Karate Kid. Jaden Smith, Jackie Chan, Karate Kid. A movie in which a young American boy goes to China and doesn't learn karate, but it's called Karate Kid, is my favorite film of 2010, I think. Now, I love Inception. I think it's a brilliant film, but I love Karate Kid. And I prefer the original, don't get me wrong, but You know, people are like, oh, it's Jaden Smith. He's really good in the film. And then you got Jackie Chan acting his motherfucking ass off. Like, he's so brilliant in the film. Oh, I love it. And it's cheesy at times. I get it. You know, it isn't, it's not brilliant, but I just, oh, I mean, we rewatched it, I think, last year or the year before, for my Jackie Chan series. And I just this is a great film. I love it. I'm sorry. There's just like, you know, the relationship with the little romance he has with the girl, very cheesy, but I just love the film. I really, really do. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Moving from a film that people will just scoff at and just say, how dare you, and throw their food at the screen. Now I get to a film where they're like, yes, we approve as cinephiles. 2011. And for a long time, that would be the film that I saw that year in 2011, and it was my favorite film of the year, and that stayed that way until maybe a few months ago. It's now changed to a film that I recently saw for the first time. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's one of the best films I've ever seen. I understand people who probably don't like it. I understand people who probably hate it. But for me, it's resonated in a way that felt quite unique to me. Like, it hit me in a way that I felt like I'd never been hit by a film before. And it's The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick. Jessica Chastain, Brad Pitt. Not to discount the three actors who played their sons in the movie, particularly the eldest son, who gives an incredible performance, a very restrained and interesting and unforgettable performance. There's so much to say about the film. I couldn't even begin to get into it, but I just think that it's a powerful drama and big in ideas. I don't know if it entirely works all together, but I think that the imagery is just unbelievable. It's one of the best looking films I've ever seen. And speaking of ambitious, moving forward to 2012, this is another recent film that I hadn't seen until this year, actually. We watched this during the 9th annual 24-hour movie marathon, which you'll hopefully see next year at some point, and I was floored by this movie. Spoilers. It is the Wachowski sisters' film Cloud Atlas. The score alone just stayed with me for weeks. What a bold, near 3 hour film with, like, it feels like dozens of different storylines, but it takes place over many different time periods with most of the same cast playing different roles in different time periods. They're all telling different stories. They're all tying into each other. They're all telling you something about the human condition, about the pitfalls of humanity, about the wonders and the beauties of humanity, the things that can be so precious, like love and, you know, kindness, and then the ugly side of it, like greed and, you know, destruction and racism. And it isn't like, it isn't great, like, in terms of, like, I don't know if it all comes together at the end, but it is just another film that to me is unforgettable. And I think about the score and I almost get chills. Like, it's just such an ambitious epic, and I absolutely love it. And this is a real tricky one, because this is the same year that The Avengers came out and the same year that The Dark Knight Rises came out. And when I saw The Dark Knight Rises, that film for me was like one of my new favorite films ever. And I think the more I get removed from The Dark Knight Rises, the more I don't love it as much. Maybe I need to see it again. Maybe I overwatched it. I don't know. But Cloud Atlas is just different. It's special, you know. And maybe I do enjoy The Dark Knight Rises a little bit more. And I've only seen Cloud Atlas once, but I wanted to just throw it in there because it's a bit more interesting than saying The Dark Knight Rises, which I do think is still, I prefer it to The Dark Knight. So really it should be in this list, but maybe it shouldn't, because Cloud Atlas is just, I can't wait to watch it again. But yeah, Cloud Atlas. Cloud Atlas is a perfect example of how you shouldn't listen to people when they talk about films. And I know that is such a horrible, well, not a horrible thing to say, but such a, not a hypocritical thing to say. What is it? It's a weird thing to say for me as someone who talks about films, and you're sat there listening to me talking about films. But, you know, it is a bad thing that you can look at what a critic says and go, oh, I'll just won't bother with that then. Because Cloud Atlas came out. I don't know why I didn't see it, because it's like a Wachowski's film. Tom Hanks is in it. It's a great cast. You know, Halle Berry and Hugh Grant and, you know, Jim Broadbent. The cast just keeps rolling on. It's so great. Just was never interested, because it came out and people took a big dump over it and said it's shit. Like, don't waste your time. And it's brilliant. Like, yeah, it is what it is. Moving forward, 2013. This was kind of a 2014 film for me, but it came out, you know, its year of release in Japan, which is where the film was made. This is like a film that I would say similar to, let's have a look. Tree of Life, yeah. Maybe Eternal Sunshine, possibly Fellowship of the Ring, Titanic, Yeah, just those ones I would say are among the best films I've ever seen. And this is another one of those. It's like one of the greatest films that I've ever seen. And it is from the master, Isao Takahata, his final film, his swan song, delivery of a beautiful motion picture, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Um, so much to say, and this was another one that was really really tough, because 2013 was an incredible year, and that was a year that I watched so many films, probably more films than I've ever watched of a single year. And I actually think the list for 2013 is one of the longest ones. There's just so many, but this is the one that ultimately is just, it's a timeless movie. I feel like this could have been made at any point in film's history, because it just has the way that it's been animated, the art style, and the kind of classical fairy tale. I mean, it's based on a literal kind of folktale, Japanese folktale. It just feels like it could have been made at any time, and you can't really say that about hardly any film ever made, I don't think, because things age from the period in which they were shot in. Even if it's a film made in the 2000s, meant to be taking place in the 80s, you can tell it's a film that's made in the 2000s, it's made to look like it's made in the 1980s. You can't fully fool an audience, but I feel like if you just sat someone down in front of this, they'd never seen it, never heard of it, and said this was made in the 30s, they would believe you. If you said it was made in the 50s, they would believe you. Like, it just has a timeless quality to it, and I think that's one of its strengths. And I think it's just a beautiful film that is just so innovative and, not precious over like making itself perfect, and that makes it even more perfect. Like, it just, there are these imperfections that add to the overall beauty of that film, I think. 2014 was another tough. This is where things get really tough. 2014 was really difficult, but I ultimately went with another of my favorites, obviously, Interstellar. So that's two Christopher Nolan films, I think. Yes. I could rattle on and on about this film. I love it completely. I had such a great time with this film because I'd heard that Nolan was making a film set in space, and I just thought I that's like a match made in heaven for me. I love space movies, and I decided to not watch any trailers. So I went in completely blind to this film, and it was just an amazing cinematic experience. And every time I revisit it, again, like most of these films, I go, wow, I forgot how fucking great this film really is. The score is amazing. The performances are underrated as fuck. I think Matthew McConaughey was like Oscar worthy in this film. I think that the character of Murph is maybe one of the best characters that I've ever seen in a film, purely based on the fact that it's played by three different people, and all three of those actresses did an amazing emotional job with their performances of that character through the three various stages of her life. Mackenzie Foy, heartbreaking at the beginning. Jessica Chastain has that cold, icy kind of demeanor in the middle of the film that just, you can see the cracks underneath the veneer of it all. And then you have Ellen Burstyn at the end, who just, oh my god, amazing. And then there's just the way that it looks and the grand story and the ending, which is so brilliant, I think. And a lot of people get lost on the ending, but I think that's what makes it so great. And anyway, I could talk about that film for a very long time. 2015, another really difficult year. And if you'd asked me this 5 years ago, it would have been instant Force Awakens, without a shadow of a doubt. But now that we're removed from the sequel trilogy as a whole complete piece, it was quite easy to take The Force Awakens off the table for me and focus on what I think is a much bigger achievement than The Force Awakens, and ultimately a film that I love more and perhaps get more out of. And I guess it's partly based on the originality of it, and I know people have criticized this film for not being all that original, but I think that it's a masterpiece. I think it's another film that is one of the best ones I've ever seen, and it's kind of, again, I keep using this term, but it's deceptive in terms of its simplicity, but I think that the overall message this film gives is so vital to like the human condition, and to put that in a movie for kids, primarily for kids, one that adults can enjoy on a different level, but something that is telling kids a very important message in a film that's very bright and colorful and enjoyable, I think is a really valuable place for art to be operating in, I think. And it's Inside Out. Incredible. It's ultimately a film about how being sad is okay and that kids need to realize this. And then it's just a super fun movie as well, but it's very emotional, and it's just about the emotions inside this young girl's head. And I was rattled by this film when I saw it in the cinema. Like, I was almost like shaking a bit when I walked out, thinking like, I was just so emotional. Like, it was so funny, so I don't know, so affecting. What a film. 2016, another tricky year, but a fairly easy answer on this one, actually. It's Your Name from Makoto Shinkai. So this is an anime which kind of distills everything that Makoto Shinkai had been perfecting up until this point in smaller segments. Like, I've seen all of his films, and there's some great ones, but every single one of his films does something really, really well, and the rest just seems to fall apart a little bit. And this one, Your Name, just brings all of it together. Like, it's like an Avengers movie of all his best traits, and they just explode in this film. The beautiful kind of mouth-watering visuals, but a really fucking great story, and this kind of grand kind of teenage romance, and like the feeling of melancholy and loss, and then celebration, and then mystery, and comedy. I mean, the first 20 minutes of this are like a body swap, comedy. It's an out and out kind of funny film, and then it just takes this turn that is just so. I remember the twist in the middle of that film. I was watching it in bed, and I literally just like got up onto my hands and knees and just like that against it, and it's just like I almost caught myself like, what the fuck are you doing? But I was just like, no, this twist that came shifted everything, and then it just propelled the story into a much more deeper sphere where it was just like, yeah. And again, another one I watch every time I think, fuck, that's a great film. 2017 is it's one that was really tricky, but there's no other answer, but there's so many great films from 2017, but there's no way it's not going to be The Last Jedi. It just is what it is, and I really don't need to say anything else about it. I've said enough about The Last Jedi, but that's a no-brainer for me. It's my favorite film ever. Three more to go. 2018. I had a film for 2018 in my top films of the year of that year, and that was another one where I watched I think over 100 films, and it was really difficult, and there was many films I debated on. I can tell you now, Game Night is really up there. Leave No Trace is up there. What's that documentary called? I forget the title of it. Won't You Be My Neighbor, I think it's called. I get confused because they did a Tom Hanks film, like an actual biopic of Mr. Rogers very shortly afterwards. Yeah. It's a Wonderful Day in the Neighborhood is the Tom Hanks one? Yes, so the documentary about Fred Rogers is Won't You Be My Neighbor? That was a great one. Shirkers. Watch that film on Netflix, incredible. But my favorite film of 2018 was Disobedience, which is a drama starring Rachel McAdams and Rachel Weisz. Amazing, but it's actually technically a 2017 film. So for the purposes of this list, I've gone with proper release dates in terms of IMDb listings. So Disobedience lost out to The Last Jedi, and so my next film, after having seen it for a second time, which really added so much more. Like, I saw this in 2018, it was in my top 20, I think, but it didn't fully connect with me in a way that other people were bigging it up to be. So I thought, well, not quite, as much for me as everyone else. Then I watched it again with Connie, and knowing where it goes, holy shit, it just added a whole new layer, the texture to it even, where it was just almost a completely different film, and it's incredible. And it's by, one of my favorite filmmakers, and there's many years in this video that I could have mentioned any number of his films, and I did shortlist many of them, like Afterlife, like Father, Like Son, Our Little Sister was another one, and Still Walking was another one. But this, ultimately, finally, in this list, in this video, Hirokazu Koreeda gets a film in, and it is Shoplifters. It's one of those films, and he makes many films about this kind of central theme of what really makes your family. Is it blood, or is it something much deeper than that? And Shoplifters is just a great example of that. Nobody Knows is another great one that I could have picked for 2004. But yeah, Shoplifters is a wonderful film that I would highly recommend to anyone. And the final physical release, and this one kind of beat out, some heavy hitters for me for 2019, but it's just like there was just no way it could be anything else but this. It is Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And this is another one I would call one of the best films I've ever seen. I rewatched it a few months after I first saw it, and I was kind of terrified that it wouldn't hold up to how amazing it had been the first time around. And I watched it for a second time with Connie, and I just thought, yeah, no, there's no denying how much I love this film. It's just maybe the best romance I've ever seen. The way that it portrays it, and it's a different. I mean, there is you can call it a certain type of romance film. I won't say what in case it spoils anything, but I don't know, for this type of film, maybe it's the best one. It just depicts a kind of raw attraction and love and a little bit of lust, but not so much. You know, it's really about a deeper connection than lust, which I really appreciated, and it's just everything about it is amazing. There's just like literally not a bum note in the entire film. Which brings me to 2020. It's a tricky one for 2020. It's been a weird year, and obviously we have like another few weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do as far as my top 20 films of the year. I don't think I've even seen 20 films in 2020. I've slacked, and it's been a weird year for obvious reasons. It almost feels like it hasn't been a real year for films, even though great films have been released. But the one I'm going to pick now at the moment is my tentative number one at the moment. It's certainly the most impactful film I've seen for 2020. It's a Netflix film, a documentary called Dick Johnson is Dead. This is made by, I forget her name, that really disappoints me. I'm disappointed in myself. But she's a cinematographer and filmmaker, and she made this about her father, Dick Johnson. So I think, is it Kirsten Johnson? I think. I wouldn't want to get it wrong though, so I might cut that out if I'm wrong. But I think that's what her name is. And she made this film about her father kind of degenerating mentally, and she'd previously gone through her mother going through the same thing, and she doesn't have much, many photos or videos of her mother around that time, so she wants to kind of document the last kind of years of her father's life, and that's where the film Dick Johnson is Dead comes from, because she gets her father to enact future versions of his own death. It's a very darkly funny film and an incredibly emotional film. The last 10 minutes just fucking wrecked me. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then it just slaps you in the face again at the end, and it's just like she pulls off such a trick in this film that I don't know whether to hate her or to just love her forever. And I think that just is a really interesting way to end this story, this film. And I would highly recommend anyone to check it out. It's a one of a kind film, and I wouldn't be surprised if it stays at my number one spot. But I would also recommend for 2020 a film called Puparia, I believe is, I don't know how you pronounce that, but this is a short animated film that is released on YouTube, and it's this guy made this incredible 3-minute film, spent years working on it, and the level of detail in the animation is absolutely jaw-dropping, and it's just visuals and sound, and it is captivating to the point where I almost thought this is the best film I've seen this year. Showed it to Connie, which is I'm bringing that up a lot, but that's what I tend to do when I see great films. I'll try and show Connie, see what she thinks, and she was like, "Yeah, it looks nice, but I don't get it. What's the story?" And I'm just like, I don't think that's the point. It's a piece of visual art that just I don't know, transported me in a way that many feature films of 2020 haven't so far. So I almost considered going with that one, but yeah, Dick Johnson is Dead. That gets my seal of approval so far for 2020, and I'm sure I'll catch up in January, February, March, as I always do with these films. But yeah, so there we go. There we go. I thought it might be a 40-minute video, but I was wise to know that wouldn't be the case. We're almost cracking an hour, so I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. I'll leave a link down below to Nathan's video, to the Movie Vault's video, so you can check out their versions of this, which are much more short and succinct. And but it's nice to see everyone's varying tastes when it comes to this topic, so I thought that it was an interesting one to go with. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And just as I was putting the movies away and taking them off the shelf here, I realized I didn't do what I promised at the beginning, which was to tell you some of the other films that I had. So I'm just going to rattle through these and not really, I suppose I can give you the year, right? So these are other ones that made the short list that didn't quite make the number one spot. 1988, we have Clean and Sober, Cinema Paradiso. 1989, Batman and Kiki's Delivery Service. 1990, Home Alone, Kira Kurosawa's Dreams, and Edward Scissorhands. From 1991, The Silence of the Lambs and Only Yesterday. 1992, Wayne's World, Hard Boiled, and Fire Walk With Me. 1993, Last Action Hero, Jurassic Park, Mrs. Doubtfire, Dazed and Confused, My Life. 1994, Pulp Fiction and Hoop Dreams. 1995, 1995, yes, Toy Story, Ghost in the Shell, and Heat. 1996, Independence Day and Twister. It was kind of one of those years. 1997, Princess Mononoke, was tough not to go with that one. Contact, Good Will Hunting, As Good as It Gets, Gattaca, and Perfect Blue. 1998, You've Got Mail and Afterlife. 1999, Magnolia and Notting Hill. 2000, Almost Famous and Castaway. 2001, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Vanilla Sky, Royal Tenenbaums, Mulholland Drive, Metropolis, not that one. 2002, Catch Me If You Can, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. 2003, Tokyo Godfathers, Old Boy, and Love Actually. 2004, Before Sunset, Prisoner of Azkaban, Shaun of the Dead, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. In 2005, only had Revenge of the Sith. So moving on to 2006, we have Casino Royale, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and in 2007, Glasses and No Country for Old Men. 2008 was The Wrestler, Wall-E, Still Walking, Yes Man, Pineapple Express. 2009 had Watchmen, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Inglourious Bastards. 2010 had Inception, Catfish, and Troll Hunter, not necessarily in that order. 2011 had Warrior, Drive, The Kid with a Bike, Hugo, and Midnight in Paris. 2012, The Dark Knight Rises and The Avengers, which I previously mentioned. 2013, Before Midnight, The Way Back, Like Father, Like Son, Cutie and the Boxer, Prisoners, Ida, The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, both him and her versions. 2014, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Boyhood, Whiplash, and Birdman. 2015, Our Little Sister, The Force Awakens, Victoria, The End of the Tour, which is very underrated and underseen. 2016 was Moana, Moonlight, Edge of 17. 2017, Twin Peaks The Return, Blade Runner 2049, Logan, Thor Ragnarok, Close Knit, Coco, One Cut of the Dead, Disobedience, The Shape of Water, Phantom Thread, and Faces Places. So 2017 was the year with the most films at 12, and 2018 had Game Night, Wild Rose, Leave No Trace, Into the Spider-Verse, Mortal Engines, and finally 2019 had Avengers Endgame, 63 Up, Midsummer, Joker, Marriage Story, Parasite, and Alita Battle Angel. And I don't know why I decided to try and do that in one rolling monologue, because my droning, dull voice doesn't suit that kind of thing, and I'm very much out of breath now, but those were the films. And that's it.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans and Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you. 'Cause